let's talk regularly scheduled maintenance. Now, most of the time when I try and talk about this, the standard response is, I change my oil regularly. That's great. But when I ask them about another component of the drivetrain, any of them, they usually look at me like this.
I beg your pardon?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. You know, the drivetrain of your daily driver is more than just the engine. It is a combination of major components designed to keep your vehicle reliably traveling down the road. And unfortunately, a lot of the components in the drivetrain end up getting neglected due to misinformation or lack of knowledge. Now, before we continue, I do want to make something very, very clear. The information that I am imparting to you in this video is based on my personal experience over the last 40 years and the user manuals of my Trailblazer, my Avalanche, and my other vehicles. It is by no means gospel. When in doubt, consult the maintenance schedule in the owner's manual of your specific daily driver to get the actual recommended maintenance intervals. And also keep in mind, those intervals in that owner's manual may not be gospel. If you're starting to feel like something's going wrong, but the maintenance manual or the owner's manual says, no, you're only at 115,000 miles, this thing is good for 125. Don't hesitate. Take care of that problem and drive with peace of mind. Before we begin our list of the top 5 most neglected components of a drivetrain, I'd like to ask you one small favor. Please be sure to like, share, smash that subscribe button, leave us a comment, let us know how we're doing. All of this is going to help us achieve our goal of 1,000 subscribers by summer 2024. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And now, let's get on to our top 5 list. At number 5 in our most neglected drivetrain components or systems, we're going to talk about the brake system. This includes your lines, the fluid, your rotors, your pads, drums or shoes if they apply, the brake booster, and the master cylinder. These are all components that are designed to help you operate the vehicle safely, and they tend to be a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. Now, most braking systems on modern cars today have a little metal bracket that's going to start that annoying squeal when you press the brake pedal. That annoying squeal will become constant as your pads or shoes wear further down, and basically what that is to tell you that it's time to get your brakes checked, or when it becomes a constant squeal, it's time to get those pads replaced before you get that nasty grinding noise, which tells you now that you are metal to metal on your rotors and you've just increased the cost of your brake job, because now instead of just pads or shoes, it's going to be pads, shoes, and rotors or drums, depending on the make and model of the vehicle. At number 4, and I can't believe that this has actually hit the top 5, is the engine itself. Now, aside from regularly scheduled oil changes, the engine also has various other subcomponents attached to it that need to be changed or serviced at regular intervals. The water pump, the AC compressor, the alternator. These are all components on the engine that need to be repaired or replaced at regular intervals, and you should always check your user manual to see what the maintenance intervals are for those components, just to help keep your engine running nice and strong for many, many years. Now, having said that, I also need to address something about oils and oil change intervals. You see, a lot of the synthetic companies out there now are marketing where you can go 5,000 or even 10,000 miles between oil changes. Now, again, this is going to be my personal opinion based on my experience. So you can take this with a grain of salt. But in my universe, there is no reason why a motor vehicle using any type of lubrication product should go 10,000 miles between oil changes. It just makes no sense to me. When you look at the marketing for these synthetic lubricants, they're saying you can go 5,000 miles, you can go 10,000 miles between oil changes in ideal or average conditions. They always leave that part out, but you can see it in the fine print. Now, ideal or average conditions are the conditions in which it was tested. They are not the everyday dynamic conditions that we experience in the real world. Oil and lubricants contain viscosity. It's a property that allows the lubrication. This viscosity breaks down over time. In regular oil, it will break down faster than the synthetics, and that I will agree with. But the conditions of your environment will determine how quickly the viscosity breaks down in any type of lubricant, whether it's synthetic or organic. If you live in extreme climates like cold or heat, that is going to affect the viscosity of the lubricant in your engine. So if it's 110 degrees and you've got the AC on and you're cooking down the highway in Tempe, Arizona, your viscosity is breaking down faster than the guy who's up in the Midwest and it's 65 degrees and he's got the windows open cruising down the interstate. If you live in extremely cold climates where you're using a block heater to keep the oil liquid, that block heater is essentially heating the oil up to a temperature, but that is also going to break down the viscosity of the oil. Now, my general rule for oil changes has always been 3,000 miles. You can stretch it a little bit, but 3,000 miles has been my golden rule, and following that, every vehicle I have owned has broken 100,000 miles on original motor. Most of my vehicles have broken 200,000 miles on original motors. At number 3 on most neglected components in the drivetrain, we're talking cooling and HVAC. Now, the cooling system is your radiator, your reservoir, the coolant that you pour into the engine. Usually it's a 50-50 mix of water and coolant. You want to use distilled water, not tap water. Or it's pre-mixed and you buy it at AutoZone and dump it in. You want to change that every 2 years or every 15 to 20,000 miles. Again, this is my opinion. Refer to your owner's manual for the actual intervals involved. With the HVAC system, the coolant in the radiator circulating through the engine is also the coolant that provides the heat that heats the cabin during the cold months. So you want to make sure those lines are clear. By swapping out the fluid at regular intervals, you're actually eliminating contaminants that could possibly block those lines and prevent the antifreeze from flowing through the system efficiently. Finally, your HVAC system, including your air conditioning compressor and its clutch. On vehicles like this Trailblazer, there is a separate belt and tensioner for the AC system. So those of you that have a Trailblazer may want to take a look. If your AC is not working, take a look at the bottom passenger side front of your vehicle below where that big silver cylinder is. That's your compressor tank. And on the front of the engine, you'll see a pulley, a tensioner, and then another pulley, and that's the compressor for your AC system. If that belt is worn out, because people tend to neglect it, then chances are the only thing you need to do to fix your AC system is just put another belt on, and then you'll be blowing cold again. At number 2 of the most neglected components, we're going to talk about the transmission itself. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation over the years, and probably because things have been lost in translation, with regards to how to service a transmission, especially one that's got a few extra miles on it. See, the time was that if you had a transmission that was below 60,000 miles, you would just take it in every 20 or 30,000 miles for a transmission flush, where they connect a couple of hoses and they actually flush all the old fluid out of your transmission and pour new fluid in. It's usually controlled by a machine and it runs at a certain amount of pressure. However, a lot of mechanics will tell you, don't bother doing that transmission flush after 60,000 miles, or if you've never done it before, because you're going to cause damage. And they're correct. There are valves inside the transmission that over time will wear out, and after a certain point, if you add that additional pressure of a transmission fluid flush, it can actually compromise those valves and lead to a whole bunch of transmission issues. However, that doesn't mean you can't service your transmission. I do what's called a drain and fill every 50,000 miles on all of my vehicles. And this is where we drop the pan, the transmission pan, clean it out, replace the gasket, and then pour in new transmission fluid. There's no pressure change involved here. This is gravity drain, gravity fill. Also, on the inside of that transmission pan, you're going to see a little square. That's a magnet, and it'll probably be covered with dust and debris. That is metal debris left over from your gear cluster. You're going to want to clean that up. There's also a flat filter on the bottom of your transmission that will need to be replaced during this process. It's essentially an oil change for your transmission. Now, a lot of you will turn around and say, but yeah, you're leaving a whole bunch of fluid in the torque converter. And you're absolutely right. The thing is, that fluid in the torque converter is going to mix with the fresh fluid coming into the transmission. This will distill down any contaminants in the old fluid, and it will also help you reduce wear and tear due to contamination in the transmission itself. As always, I do it every 50,000 miles. Consult your user manual for an actual service interval. And number one of our most neglected drivetrain components is the differential. This is the big pumpkin-looking thing on the back axle at the rear of most vehicles. And if you have a 4x4 truck, there's going to be a second differential in the front of the vehicle. These differentials contain a heavy oil lubricant that needs to be changed on my vehicles every 35,000 miles. You'll need to consult your user's manual to find out what the maintenance duration is on your particular vehicle. Most differentials do have a drain plug on them, so you can just unplug it and let the oil drain, and that's fine. But every other service, I would recommend pulling that back cover off and taking a look at the gear cluster underneath. This will also give you a chance to not only check for potential damage to your gear cluster, but it will give you an opportunity to check the integrity of the housing, replace the gasket, and prevent any future leaks. For four-wheel drive vehicles, you're going to want to do this twice, once in the front, once in the back. And if you have a 4x4 vehicle, it doesn't hurt to occasionally have somebody check the fluid levels in that front differential if you're not using it on a regular basis. Well, that's going to do it for this top 5 most neglected components of your drivetrain video. If you're enjoying the content we're creating, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down in the comments section below. And remember, we're now an Amazon affiliate, so if you see something that we're using in our videos that you would like to purchase, be sure to grab that link down in the description. Help the channel out, help us grow. We really appreciate it. We'll be back soon. In the meantime, my name is Big Mike. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.